Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Action and Inertia, a research podcast where each week or each episode, we invite our guests to share their opinions and perspectives on the topic of human behavior in response to change. I'm your host, Kimberly Logan, and today we are so honored to have with us Nekeya O'Connor. Nekeya, welcome. Please introduce yourself to folks. Let us know who you are, what your passions are, and where your subject matter expertise lies.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you, Kim, for having me. I am so excited to be here. And I just want to let you know that I am extremely proud of you. I think that this is an amazing feat. And I think that you should. I just want to give you your flowers while you can smell them. Okay. So, hi, everybody. My name is Nekeya O'Connor. I am all things nonprofit. I am all things love. I am all things people. So my passion is helping people. Literally, I believe that I have a call to serve on my life. And so in any way that in which I can do that is what I try to do, whether it is in my field of finance or it is just helping people through church or just, doing community service projects. I'm very much about building community, building people, being support systems, and just, honoring others and trying to help people get to reach their fullest potential. My subject matter expertise is in nonprofit management, finance, accounting, and grants. So I'm very well versed when it comes to anything on the fiscal side of the house, from regulation to accounting, financial reporting, any of those, strategic management, leadership. That's pretty much where my subject matter expertise lies.
Thank you. You are a rock star. So
I'd be like your friend. That's all.
Each episode, and really the goal of the podcast as a whole, right, is twofold. First, we want to inspire at least one person to actively lean into change. We want to empower people to take that step. And the second goal is to gather information, to create a database of all of these varied human experiences and opinions that can be used as a reference tool for folks who are experiencing change and essentially training for change, right? So how we do that is we ask each guest the same 3 questions. And so I'm just going to jump right in. So my first question for you, Nekeya, is in the face of change, what motivates a person to choose either action or inertia?
So it's interesting that we're having this now because my whole life is literally about to change on a professional and personal level. So these are conversations that I've been having with people around me about change. So what I would say is that it starts with 2 things. It starts with one, recognition that change is going to occur, right? And then the second is your desire for action in order for action to happen. I think without recognizing and acknowledging that change is imminent, but then also recognizing what the impact of that change is going to be on your life, you can't make a decision about whether or not you want to accept and go with it, or decide to, I'm going to acknowledge you, but I'm not going to act like I'm going to be a part of you or welcome you into my life. So there are people who try to reject change, and then it becomes a by force or by choice conversation, right? But as far as moving towards action, it starts with desire. You have to actually want to acknowledge the change, accept the change, and then be the change in which is, coming into your life. And once you have those, then you have to seek the tools to what is necessary for that change to be successful. If you want to implement it. I think that people are afraid of change, which is how they end up in a space of inertia. And change can be scary. It's not an acknowledgement that change isn't scary. It absolutely is. But I think that inertia is a set of comfortability sometimes. It's also a place where we can hide if we if we're not open to what change can be, and that's because of the unknown. And so inertia for some people might represent safety, you know. Um, it can represent a hiding place. It can represent comfortability sometimes. And so I think acknowledging also that, and that's okay, you know, for the right now. But if you want to grow, you have to be open to doing action.
I love that. I love that. And that kind of leads right into question number 2.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, which choice, action or inertia, which choice is most beneficial to holistic wellness? And that's looking at wellness as the complete system of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, which choice is most beneficial to that kind of holistic wellness? You started to answer it.
Yeah, I think the action is, however, there may be some circumstances where safety is necessary. So I think it depends on what the circumstance of the change is, right? So if the circumstance of the change is, there's a difference between accepting change in your life because you know what that change is going to do and how it's going to make you better. And so preparing yourself for the impact of that, whatever mental and emotional work you have to do, whatever detachments you have to make from your old self can be helpful. But if we're talking about it in the sense of if you experience a traumatic event, right? Inertia sometimes can be a trauma response. And so you're trying to essentially hide or protect yourself from the result of the traumatic event that happened to you. And so you may not be ready essentially to embrace, you know what I mean? Like what the impact of that change might be. And so it's a matter of time, right? But in order for you to move past that, I think that's where you have to again recognize that it might be something beyond you. And it's okay to talk to somebody outside of, somebody else outside of your circle, or it's okay to call a paid professional, get a counselor or a therapist, someone who can help you to break down, you know, what this change means. And you can even do it as a form of action too, right? I think tapping into a therapist.
All of those things that you described,
Yeah,
are
I think
actually actions.
yeah.
Yeah, and that in terms of a holistic wellness, that like I completely agree with you, and I actually think that that's like a real part of the basis for my own curiosity about human behavior in response to change. Is that it is like, I agree with you 100%. It is so there is so much fear involved, and that's usually because of a circumstance as you've described, like, and shout out to small trauma too. It doesn't necessarily have to be this huge one-time thing. There's all kinds of micro trauma that really kind of like adds up when you're faced with like, that big decision, that big moment. So I love that. I love that perspective. I love that advice. And I love that that is that's kind of like an anecdote that lends itself to transitioning between the two states, right? Which in and of itself, right, is action again, right? We're obsessed with action over here, obviously. So the last question is, what traits exist in people who consistently choose action, from your perspective, from your experience, or what you've observed?
I'll give you from all of those. So one of the things that I noticed for people who always choose action is that there's a level of self-awareness. And the self-awareness is that they might need help. This change is going to occur whether I like it or not, right? I cannot do it by myself in some cases. And if I want to grow, I have to move. I have to make some kind of move. And so the self-awareness part, I think, is probably the biggest trait that I've seen in my own life or in the people who are around me, where that call to action is there. It starts with, to me, self-awareness. I think that also it takes a little, even in your self-awareness, it takes a little humility. I think that change doesn't look the same for everybody. And sometimes as you're going through the process of change, it might feel traumatic, or it might feel a lot bigger or heavier than what you thought. In some cases, some people might say, and I've seen it where, they'll say, okay, I can take this change, it'll be great. I got this. And then they realize that they don't. And so, but you're making the decision to push forward anyway. And so that humility, that vulnerability also, that says that I am open and I am willing, and I have this desire, will really can kind of push you into that action space and constantly hold you up when you're trying to figure out what the next steps are as you're embracing change. But again, even to self-awareness, even to like all of those things, I think vulnerability is also necessary in the traits of the people that I've seen when it comes to action, like I said, because it's also recognizing that you're going to feel very naked as you're going through change, whether it's a personal change, if it's a small change, like how you said, or a big one, or it is, on a professional level or anything like that. You feel very naked, and you want to hide. You want to, because it's either you always want to show yourself as the person who knows what they're doing and I got this, but also you feel exposed at the same time. And so it's crazy. And can I give you an example?
Yeah.
So if I think about when I became a CFO of a program, right? I was 31, and which would have made me at that time the youngest in our region, right? I came in with all this accounting knowledge. I knew everything that I needed to do. I had my master's degree. I had the certificate in nonprofit accounting. I had this, that, and all these things. And I could tell you that the day that I walked into that program and I had a board meeting, a leadership team meeting, an audit, and a monitoring review all happening in the same week, I felt like I do not know what the hell I'm doing. And I almost quit my job. Like I literally walked into the director's office and was like, so I don't think this is for me. Because it's a big change. It's a job that brought me back to home, right? Back to the DMV. It was also a job that put me in leadership for the first time ever. And that it wasn't like I was just a regular manager. Like I was legit a CFO. Like that is not at 31 when I was just a senior accountant like 2 days ago. Like what? Who told me that I could do this? Like all my ambition and all those other things. But I'm telling you, Kim, when I went into that place, I was like, I'm about to quit. I can't do this. Like this is not it. And I felt naked. I felt like everybody's going to be looking at me and being like, why did she get this position? And that we could have a whole conversation about imposter syndrome and all those other things, right? But it was really like, why is she here? And she's young, she doesn't know what she's doing. And it was all those things. And so that exposure was very scary. But what that exposure did for me was to also make sure that if I'm going to be exposed, that I make sure that I cover myself at the same time. And so that's when springing into action went into place. So being able to be vulnerable and humble and self-aware, going to my director to say, okay, so listen, as much as I want to quit, I know I came in here yesterday and told you I want to quit. We're on day 2. Forget that conversation. I need training. I need to know about this field. And I need to know, like, I can study. I need you to give me the materials, but I also need you, if you're willing to invest in me, I promise you that what I'm going to be able to do for you, which is my superpower, I know that about myself, it will be better than you've ever seen. And being able to go and have that conversation and acknowledge that and taking the action steps to acknowledge that this is where I am and I want to be better. She did that. And as a result of it, we were able to take the work that we're doing and enhance the fiscal and program sides together in a way that they elevated, right? And it was to the point where we were now being used as examples for monitoring and like all those other things. But I had to cover what was exposed of me, acknowledge that it was there, but then say, okay, how do I fix this? How do I move into action for this change that has significantly come in and changed my life? And as a result of that, everything that happened after that literally is a reflection of the decision that I made to be open and getting help so that I could be better. So working with, national centers and then literally skipping steps, becoming a fellow, doing this, doing that. And now where I am, where you and I are now working together, I didn't come in from the same side as a lot of other people. You know what I mean? And so, and this is all over a span of 7 years. Some people have been, you know what I mean? And so it had my world is rocked, but it literally, like that exposure and the desire to be better really kind of sprung me into, literally like where I am today.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I love that that you shared that experience with us and that ties it all in. I think for me, my immediate takeaway from our conversation, the thing that I want to highlight before we sign off is what I'm getting as your unique perspective on this topic is the measure of compassion that you offer to yourself and as a part of the advice that you're giving about change. I think that's really wonderful and key because we talk about action and it can feel very masculine, right? And I love that your unique perspective has such a healthy dose of compassion. That's definitely something for me to think about and for Chris to think about. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your expertise and your opinion. Just wonderful to have you here. Thanks again to everybody out there for being here as well. If you enjoyed the episode and you'd like to help support this research, please share the podcast, talk about it, post about it, hit us up, leave us a comment, subscribe, all of that. You can find us at actioninertia.com. And eventually everywhere podcasts are broadcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Nekeya.
Thank you, Kim.
Signing out.